Thursday afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to your knowledge session and your tea afterwards. Looking forward to it. My name is Charles Moon. I am the practice leader for OVM, and I oversee Asia. So we have a team here in Asia Pacific of around 5 people, and we cover, including Malaysia, around 52 countries in total. So we look at everything from services through to networks, through to enterprise strategies. My team in particular looks very much at mobile markets, and Malaysia is one of the major markets that we focus on. So today, what I'm going to talk to you about is mobile trends. Just very generally how they're impacting what we're seeing in terms of the services that are being rolled out by operators here in Malaysia, and also what that holds for them over the medium to long term, so over a 5-year period. I think this is probably going to be about it's a short presentation. It'll probably be about 20-25 minutes. So if you do have questions, please feel free to interrupt, and we can also talk afterwards. So this first slide is really just penetration numbers for the region in general. So this is ASEAN countries. The first chart that you see is penetration of population, and then the second chart is unique subscriber penetration. And this is really the chart that you want to look at when you're talking about growth potential. But here I just thought it was interesting to put this up because I mean it's we're other than Laos. I mean, we're upwards of 100 to upwards of 140%. So obviously there's a lot of dual SIMs in the market. I think there's also a lot of non-revenue generating SIMs in the market, which people have forgotten about. As we move up towards 3G and 4G, which is exactly what's happening here in Malaysia, that automatically corrects itself, and actually the unique users should normalize. When we look at our unique subscriber penetration over the long term, we're still actually. I looked at these numbers last night. I was really surprised to see that Malaysia is sitting around between 80 and 90%. So by 2020, really, I think there's going to be very little difference between Japan, Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, and countries like Malaysia and other ASEAN markets. So what does this mean? Really, it just means that organic subscription growth is over. We're growing now at about 2%, and that's going to drop down to around 1%, which is basically flat over the long term. What's happening in terms of technologies? If you look at the red, we've been dominated by 2G, and just in the last 6 quarters, we're starting to see 3G and 4G. So basically, mobile broadband really taking the majority of market share, and that's going to continue with 2G declining through the long term, through 2020, where it has really just a minute share overall. So what is that doing, right? What's the impact of flat growth? What is it forcing the operators to do? Well, number one, we're seeing a lot more people shift to smartphones because as they move to 3G, and that's causing this to happen. And I think everybody's already seen this, right? We call it kind of the scissor diagram with data increasing and voice decreasing. 2 years from now, I think is really, I guess you could call it D-Day in Malaysia. That's when Malaysia becomes a data dominant market. market. And so when that happens, and we're already seeing a lot of things leading up to it, but once data accounts for over 50% of revenues, that creates a huge impact in terms of how people are consuming services. Already, I think everyone probably already uses WhatsApp or KakaoTalk and Line and those types of services a lot more than SMS, and I'd be willing to bet that your voice usage is probably come down by over half, and you're probably using voice over OTT. So those are the two big things that are happening. Traditional voice and SMS, less prevalent, and more data use. And the thing about data use is, and I'll show you as we go into the slides, the more you use data, the more it begets more data use. So what I mean by that is if you start using video services, if you start using video calls, the tendency is to use that much more, and you have exponential growth for capacity needs. And that's exactly what's happening with operator networks at the moment. Traditional voice and SMS, I think there's a limit that we hit, and that seems to be about 800 minutes per month. And beyond that, I think there's very few people that actually need to use more. That's why you see a lot of unlimited promotion for SMS and voice. It's just impossible to provide that for data. Sorry, I'm just going to. So what's happening from the operator's perspective, right? From a profitability point of view. I showed you what's happening in terms of the revenues. This is respectable, but it's still below 5%. And so that means it's already mature. Shareholders are looking for higher growth profiles. It probably costs the operator more to start provisioning services around here for data than it did back here for voice and SMS. So that's why you see this happening. That's why it's going up. Profits are going down. The only two kind of transparent companies in Malaysia are Celcom and Digi. And these are EBITDA margins over the last 3 years. It's all public data, so it's basically a slow decline. Meanwhile, revenues are still continuing to grow, right? So it means that they're making a lot less money on the services that they're provisioning. So why is that happening? There's a number of reasons. First of all, it's become much more competitive. Branding becomes less important when we're talking about a data product. There's other players coming in, which increases the competition. I think WhatsApp is probably the biggest competitor, including voice now, with their new voice service, but for messaging. And then just a whole new slew of OTT services. This is more forward-looking, but these are some of the reasons why voice and SMS are having less of an impact. That was the big money maker for operators to know. So short-term operator tactics has been this. So these two lines highlight prepaid users and postpaid users. And postpaid, up until around 2013, 2014, was pretty flat. But it's hard to see here, but there's been a pretty clear inflection from 2014. And this is really when we started 3G starting to get more share, and smartphones getting more share, right? So a lot more focus on postpaid, less focus on prepaid. As we drop down, as users go on to 3G and drop 2G, there's a normalization in the dual SIMs as well. So here, I mean, it's not easy to see, but here it's about a 20-80 split, and here it's about a 25-75 split. So that's a lot of subscription numbers, and that's a lot of share from postpaid. So that's the initial area of focus that operators are looking at is to go towards postpaid. And these are some of the, I won't go into too much detail here. I can talk about it a little bit later if you want me to get into details. But these are some of the things that are happening. Really, it's around pricing tactics. It's around bundling more. So for postpaid, there's basically two main areas where operators are focusing on. One is just providing more data. And the second one is provisioning kind of free memberships or service provisioning to a lot of OTT sites, providing free voice and SMS, providing free memberships to video services. On the prepaid side, really it's about just providing free social services, some basic internet, and then some music streaming. Really, what we're seeing here is not free data, but just free membership for the streams, so that people can consume it over Wi-Fi. So this is very short term. This is how operators are initially reacting to it. I left out one big thing, which is subsidies on the handsets. So that's really been responsible for driving that postpaid number higher. So what's happening for the longer term? Longer term, they can't survive as a communications provider, right? There's no money in voice. There's no money in SMS. Data is highly competitive. It's very expensive to provision. That's why profit margins are shrinking. So they're looking to get a lot broader in terms of the focus. They're looking to go digital. And one of the things that is required is really to transform as an organization. So the biggest thing is becoming customer-centric. Rather than just pushing up voice minutes and SMSs, now you're trying to figure out what the customer needs and trying to provide that as quickly as you can in an innovative way. And the big deal here is how do you reduce costs? So now, if we look at it just from a profitability perspective, I haven't seen any successful operators, not yet. But there's a lot of focus. If we look at operators that have gone through this transformation, Singtel, operators in the Philippines, operators in Indonesia, you can see, I mean, we track new telco service launches. In the first half of last year, you can see this is, typically it would be, we don't even have any service launches, but typically it would be something around messaging and voice. But now, more than half are all entertainment services, right? And that's directly coming from this transformation. This is really just a listing of who launched what in terms of entertainment, in terms of that red portion of the pie. And as I said, really the operators in the Philippines that have gone through that transformation, they were really active last year. Much of it was around TV and video, and that's really for them trying to drive up a lot of the traffic with some efforts around mobile apps. And again, from a revenue perspective, and certainly from a profit perspective, nothing material yet to report from the operators. So this is going to be a really long-term play for all of them. What I really wanted to talk about today, I think what I've talked about to now is really, well, has admittedly been quite general, but is quite well known throughout the industry. What I wanted to talk about and share with you is, what's been the impact for consumers, right? Because I know you look at that quite closely. I mean, a few things. Really, choice has expanded massively. You can download an app for almost anything. The only limitation is internet access. If you look at the OTT players that are in the space, everybody's sort of doing a little bit of everything now. Everybody has that capability. Right? Facebook is, I think last week they announced they had, on a daily basis, 100 million hours of viewing, and YouTube is somewhere around 500 million per day, so they're catching up quite quickly. This is a social network known for its social applications. Kakao really makes most of their money from gaming, and what's amazing is if you look at the Google Play Store in Korea, more than half of total revenues from Google Play is driven by Kakao, from people not paying for the game downloads, but paying for things like game add-ons and things like that. So Kakao really drives the revenues for Google Play in Korea. WhatsApp is a massive competitor for mobile operators now with voice and messaging services. And this dynamic that's happening here with consumers is of huge significance to, I think, Malaysian operators, but also, emerging market operators in general. And this is from a survey that we conduct every year. It's called the Digital Consumer Insights Survey. We look at 16 different countries, survey about 1,000 people per country on various things. And this particular, sorry, I was trying to fiddle around with the text. It's too small. I can make it any bigger, but I'll read it out for you. So these are, it's basically asking how important is a specific activity to you, right? We don't have it for Indonesia, for Malaysia, but we have it for Indonesia, and these are Indonesian youth, typically with an internet connection and a PC. So probably living in an urban area, probably equivalent to their peers here in Malaysia and KL. This is Indonesia. These are developed markets in Asia: Korea, Japan, Australia. Same question. So look at the difference here. Browsing the web, essential, nice to have, and unnecessary. So essential, almost 80%. Right? It's like is essential. For developed Asia, still the majority of users, they still want to browse the web. Social networking, over 60% of users in Indonesia is absolutely essential. Around 20 to 30% of the data. So I won't go through each one, but basically, if you look at this, you can see how a lot of these things, reading books, right, watching movies, watching TV, watching live sports, 50% or more of users, absolutely essential. Which means, from the operator point of view, a lot more opportunity to engage with consumers. And I think from the MCMC's point of view, a lot more responsibility for the operators to provision those services at a fair price. Okay. Here's another question we asked. What is important? Why do you plan to change your mobile service provider? So this is about churn, right? Why are you moving to Digi from Cellphone, basically? Or why are you staying with your service provider? The interesting thing about this is the most important thing is the experience. Everybody wants a faster network, and everybody wants good network coverage. That is number one. And related to that, that's why people are staying. Either they're happy with the service, or they're happy enough that they're lazy, so there's too much trouble to change service. That's why people are staying. If we look at I didn't put the chart up here, but if we look at developed markets, it's actually by far the number one thing is just pricing. They just want better prices. So what does that mean? It means people here in ASEAN are actually really picky, or the operators aren't providing good service. Right? It's really bad connectivity. I think it's probably the latter. And this is huge, because once you have kind of 10 to 15% of people peak hour using video, that has a huge impact on the quality of the network, and we're probably not too far away from that in Indonesia. I think the next slide. Here's some other questions that we asked. This is about social networking sites and what platform are you using to access it. So social networking, I think this is a no-brainer, and I think this is probably the case in Singapore, Malaysia, most ASEAN countries. Most people are accessing it through their mobile. This was really surprising. I'm really sorry about the numbers, they're really small. I think this is 20%. 20% are watching video over mobile. And this is over the mobile network, not over Wi-Fi on the mobile. Video gaming, not so popular yet, although Philippines, this is probably this way. And then we have music streaming as well. Not so popular yet, but it's still a quarter of people listening to music on their phones. How much money are people spending? Not that much yet, but there's a pretty, within this urban segment in Jakarta, a lot of them are spending more than $3 US, and that's $3 to $4 US is really double the average. So people, there's a fair chunk of the population. And remember, last year this red part was made less than half of this, so it's growing quickly, and people are spending a lot of money outside of data charges. This is just for content access on video games, music streaming. What's the biggest one right now? Video. Look how much money people are spending on video games, right? More than between $2 and $5, about $7 to $8 US. Right? 5% of the population surveyed. So these are just some of the numbers we have. Admittedly, they're for Indonesia. We will be adding Malaysia to the list later this year, I think. Just one more that I wanted to bring up here. And something really, I think over the there's been a lot of news stories around privacy, around data security. This is a really scary number. So if we look at the question here is, how safe do you think payments are? Right? In terms of transaction security, protecting your data. This was Indonesia. This is Korea, Japan, Australia, developing. More than half of people thought it was safe enough. And I think I kind of fall into this category as well. But if you go into a developed market, it's almost the opposite. Half of people think it's not safe. Right? So what's going on here? There's this is something really that we need to be looking at. And I think it's been top of the news for the news cycle for the last probably 2 to 3 quarters. So this was really surprising. You would think that it would feel safer in a developed market, but the perception is that it's safe in a developing market. So I think it's probably a lack of education and maybe too much trust in the operators. And that's it. That's all I wanted to share with you. All of the research was pulled from our research platform, which you have full access to for all of this research, except for the surveys data. I really just want to. I mean, there's really three key takeaways, right? Malaysia is becoming a data market in 2017. You have to think about what does that mean from the operator's point of view? How are they going to approach it? And what's the expectations and needs from a consumer point of view? I think they go in opposite directions. With OTT and WhatsApp and video and operators trying to reposition themselves in the value chain, what's the framework? What's the definition of a communications provider? How do you think about Google or Facebook or Free Basics for that matter versus a Cellcom and a Digi? Are these kind of becoming the same thing? And then just this last slide that I talked about is this perception of safety and trust in the operator. Again, just this is quite shocking to see that big of a difference between developed and developing markets. So I think those are the three takeaways for today, and that concludes my presentation. Any questions? I was told not to ask, does anybody have any questions? Because nobody would have questions. What do you think is the reason for this? I was actually shocked when they told us. Is it lack of education, or is it, one of the things is there's been more mobile money. Mobile money has been around for a lot longer in ASEAN's developing markets. Is that the reason? Or is it like people just have more trust in the mobile operators? Okay. Yeah.
The first slide, your first chart.
Yeah. So Thailand and Malaysia. Malaysia's kind of it's slight, but I was actually going to take Thailand out, but I'll give you these are actual numbers where it dips down. Where it dips up is forecast numbers. Unfortunately, we haven't caught up because basically what's happened is I can't remember what the number was, but I mean there's just a lot of movement into 3G now. So a lot of people are continuing to dump their 2G SIM cards, getting a 3G smartphone. But rather than having 2 or 3 2G SIM cards, now they're just consolidating that into one SIM. And operators are normalizing that. They're canceling a lot of the non-revenue generating SIM cards. So that's why you have this dip, because they're decommissioning the SIMs. So we need to bring this down, and that will take place during the first quarter during our forecasting. It's not going to make a difference. I mean, this all shifts down. We're still looking at I think it was under 2% growth for Thailand. I mean, really, the key takeaway from this is it's just flat. Whether you do penetration of population or you do unique users, growth is completely flat under 2%. downward inflection, and it affects the overall. Hopefully next time what I can do is come back and share Malaysia specific numbers. I have a feeling that these are almost, you're going to get the same numbers as from Indonesia and Malaysia. They're very different markets. The only difference is when we're talking about somebody with a PC, somebody with an internet connection that's taking this online survey, the profile is probably the same. Young, urban, wealthier user. And so probably the answers are going to be the same, because what I noticed was for developing markets, the answers were very similar, and for developed markets, they were different across the two segments, but very similar when they were in the same segment.
Is there any new sort of activities being ventured by users like, for instance, mobile navigation or something like that? Are they shifting into that mobile security?
I wouldn't say they're shifting. I think they're adding things on. We have not surveyed for the long tail of new applications coming on board. But what I do want to highlight is, this. So there's a convergence going on between, it used to be mobile and fixed, still talking about communication services. But this, we're talking about mobile, which kind of permeates through everything now. We're talking about social, which is the platform for almost everything now for OTT, right? Why did Facebook buy, what about WhatsApp? Was it Facebook? Yeah. Right, why are they buying them with, and WhatsApp really has no revenue model right now. If you look at what social is, it's a platform to do any other type of business, and that's exactly what Kakao and Line are doing. So you look at that, so mobile, social, and then media. Now everything, this is all converging, and my feeling is you'll still have the long tail, but I think it's going to continue to be these big name players, and I think WhatsApp, I would venture to guess over the next 2 to 3 years could become a lot more prominent and powerful than it is now from a revenue share perspective, based on just the number of people that are using it. So I think it's going to be the big players that continue to dominate, whether that's navigation, whether that's video, whether that's magazines or other type of media. Those are the players that you should be looking at, that have a real impact on the operator business. Just like Facebook is. Facebook on the mobile side, it seems to be messaging. Kakao Talk, I'm Korean, and the Kakao Talk is, it's everywhere, offline and online. People don't really identify through the operator anymore, especially after the implementation of MNP, where kind of the prefix was this, everybody had the same prefix. Now it's just you exchange contacts through your technology. That's the lowest hour. So operators have really lost a lot of their brand equity. Sorry, I think I'm coming down to something. I apologize if my voice is really rough.
You said the Kakao is taking over, right? In Korea. It's already taken over in Korea, provider handling this issue? Because it's not very common in Malaysia yet. I think that situation, we are not there yet, you know.
Yeah.
Service provider is still getting the revenue.
But that's the conundrum of mobile operators right now is how. And there's two things. One is how do we battle with Kakao, but if they could replicate Kakao and they could replicate those revenues, it's still a really small proportion. They're making so much money as it is, right? Up from 2000 to 2010, growth was just based on organic growth, and we're talking $20, $30, $40 per month per new user, and it's just and it was growing by 10% every year. So you compound that, and growth was massive for the last 10 years. But now now it's flat, right? So this is what they're competing with, and they're looking at Kakao, they look at Facebook, they look at all these other players. But if you look at OTT's revenues as a percentage of the average large mobile operator in Japan, Korea, certainly China, we're talking billions of dollars for an operator like Cellcom for data revenues per year. For Kakao, we're talking tens of millions. It's a completely different scale. So, the biggest threat is to their ability to differentiate from other mobile operators. It's not the revenue that Kakao is stealing. It's the fact that their product is now it's just data, right? It's just data. That's why if you look at the survey, Koreans, they're only interested in who has the cheapest data plan, because everybody has a great network. Everybody's got 4G. I use Kakao. It doesn't matter whether I'm on KT, LG, or STT. It doesn't matter anymore. Before, I remember 10 years ago, everybody wanted 011. That was SKT. That was the I think same here, right? Cellcom. The prefix, was it the same? Everybody wants the Cellcom prefix, but in Korea now that just doesn't exist. So it just reduces your ability to differentiate, which means you don't have as much pricing power, which is why profitability keeps shrinking, because you can't get as much margin on the revenues. And that's, I think, the biggest impact. It's like a water company or electricity. It's a right. You have a right to data, right? Communicate. It used to be a luxury to have a mobile phone. Now, it should be a right that I think everybody's born with. Once you're 6 years old, 7 years old, your parents give you a phone. That's because if you think about the disadvantage that you have if you don't have a mobile phone. It's like not having an address or a bank account. You can't get a job. You can't integrate with society. It's become such an embedded part of our life. So
it's just like offering a card. If they are not innovative,
I don't want to say it because my clients are mobile operators, but for now, yes, because I think it's impossible even with this transformation, that I think it's impossible to compete with a WhatsApp or a Facebook or an Instagram, or who knows what's going to be the most popular game next year, or the new Facebook next. There's so many different things that make an OTT player successful or not, right? And I think a lot of it is luck, but I think a lot of it is just that culture and the ability to move quickly. And I think, operators, I'm sure some will find a lot of success on something in the future, but overall, it's always going to be the hundreds of thousands of apps or internet companies that are startups that are around the world. They will always have the advantage, because it's just there's so many more. They're just structured to So yeah, so I mean, to answer, the short answer is dumb hype. The longer answer and the cop-out answer is, we'll need to wait and see over the next 3 to 5 years. But I think I mean, Singtel, Axiata, Telkomsel, KT, SKT, Telefonica. I mean, every single operator you can think of has gone through, these big operators have gone through this transformation. Nobody has anything to show for it. Right? Everybody, there's been no inflection in revenues. There's been no inflection in profits. There's been nothing that has gained. I mean, do you use anything? Like WhatsApp or any that the operator has created? I don't think of anything. On any of, and I'm on a lot of different networks. I mean, I can't even think of anything that's been successful that we as a company that look at these things have seen. I don't think we've seen anything that's been successful that's been launched by an operator. That's been as big a success as, like a line or something that wasn't an acquisition. So, again, yeah, for the short term, no, but let's wait and see. Maybe next year if I come back to present, you think I'll be proven wrong.
Thank you.
I hope.
Thanks.